Percival chases after a rock bird as it flies over the top of God's finger. He informs his grandpa Verghese that there is one in the sky when he gets to the end of the cliff. The pensioner picks some vegetables from their garden and comments that it's been a while since they have encountered one. Percival tells his grandpa that he doesn't have anything to take it down with. This prompts him to grab a pitchfork. As he warms up a little, his grandson informs him that their prey will get away. The old man hurls the farming utensil which plucks the bird out the sky. Percival gets the bright idea of jumping off the cliff and hanging onto the dying bird. He misjudges and pushes himself and the prey off the top of the mountain. Verghese fanatically rushes to catch them, but he's too slow. The boy is no slouch as he holds onto the bird while keeping himself up with his other hand. He gets back on land, and they head inside to break it down. Percival is given the honors and he skillfully skins and cuts the bird into portions. His grandpa is impressed with his competency in carving meat. The two cook a piece of the creature and Percival is excited to eat. The guy grabs a section and begins to devour it. As the two enjoy their meal, a seal under the head of the rock bird disappears. Later on, Percival trains with his grandpa where the aim is to tackle the old-timer. The young buck charges in and creates an opening to push Verghese back, but he absorbs Percival's momentum. The old bones then picks him up and throws him, bringing an end to the fight. The young boy tosses and turns in frustration that he lost again. His grandpa gives him some confidence when he admits that it was a close exchange and he had to wrestle him seriously to stop his momentum. This makes Percival happy as he dances around. Verghese excuses himself since he must head down to the spring to wash their dishes. As he does so, he reminisces about how his grandson was a baby not that long ago. He is shocked at the rate of the boy's growth. Thinking about Percival triggers him to remember something important, so he stops doing the dishes and dashes. He finds his grandson taking a pee at the back and reminds him that it's his birthday the next day. Verghese falls to the floor shock when Percival asks how old he is going to be. His grandpa tells him that he will be 16 years old. This will officially make him an adult. Percival is excited that he gets to have a cold one with his grandfather in the future. He shuts that idea down, saying that the kid's still too young for the happy juice. This takes all the excitement away from him. The following day, Verghese leads him to the top of a cliff. His grandpa officially recognizes his new age and asks if he wants to leave God's finger to go on a grand adventure across the world. He's baffled to hear Percival express his disinterest. Verghese passionately tells his grandson that when he turned 16, his wanderlust compelled him to leave his homeland. The old man is perplexed that his grandson is not the same. Percival explains that he has fun every day, so he doesn't have the desire to seek adventure. Verghese tries to stir up curiosity inside him by pointing out the hazy structure they sometimes see beyond the clouds. The kid already knows it to be the Sky Temple. His grandpa adds that it was created by the goddess race known as Celestials. It supposedly floats in the air, but Percival is sure that Verghese has seen it before, but the senior citizen tells the boy he doesn't know how to fly. His grandpa continues his attempts to light a spark by describing the vast land under God's finger called Britannia, which is laden with exciting adventures and mysteries. For instance, there is a knight who rows his mystic ship across the skies. There are caves that lead to hell, a maze-like forest that is impossible to escape from, and much more. Verghese is shocked to see that these tales didn't light a fire in his chest, as Percival is more interested in catching skyfish for dinner. That night they enjoy their catch and Verghese begins to ramble on under the inspiration of the happy juice. He tells the boy that his father was so keen to go adventuring that he shot out of the door the moment he turned 16. But he brings up the fact that his father has passed away, causing Verghese to quickly change the topic. He now wants to know if Percival doesn't feel bored and isolated living so high up. The kid assures him that he doesn't because his grandpa is there with him. After the meal, Verghese continues to drink and starts to utter an old creed, which Percival finishes because he always hears it when his grandpa gets lit. It centers on crushing evil and rescuing the weak. Verghese is surprised that he has memorized it. His grandson turns and promises to protect him no matter what happens. Verghese is moved by his words, but hides it by saying he's not yet senile enough to need his protection. They get some sleep, but the youngin gets up in the middle of the night and goes out to watch the night sky. It turns out that a fire was lit in his heart when his grandpa was telling him about the wonders of the world. He wants to go on an adventure, and thinking about it gets him so excited that he runs around the summit. Percival trips over, and while on the floor, he reminds himself that he can't go because of his grandpa. He ends up falling asleep outside, but he gets a vision of Verghese alerting him to something. He gets up and the place is now foggy. A creaking sound catches his attention, and soon enough, the knight who rows his ship across the skies appears before him. Ironside docks it at the edge of the peak and talks to himself about how he detected Vergi's power when he shot the rock bird, as it was his familiar. This explains the seal. He was surprised that the old guy lives this far out, and it now makes sense why he combed the lands and never found him. Percival is just excited that the knight his grandpa spoke about exists. Ironside greets him and asks about Vergis. He's astonished to hear that the boy is his grandson. He tells the boy that he's an old friend from their Holy Night days. They parted ways 16 years ago, but Ironside has returned because he has some business with him. Percival points out that their house is beyond the hill and even adds that he's probably making breakfast now. The boy is more excited to have a look at the boat, so Ironside permits him. Internally, he calls Vergis a cruel man for hiding the truth from Percival while raising him. At that moment, Percival senses something. He finds it weird, but brushes it off as he's more interested in inspecting the ship. He wonders how it floats and even hops on and starts paddling, hoping that it will move, but he's disappointed when it doesn't budge. He assumes that one must be a holy knight to operate it, but he's ignorant of what a holy knight is. Percival's attention turns back to Ironside as he finds him to be creepy. He puts down the paddle and runs toward the house, realizing that this stranger might have sinister intentions. All the while, Vergis cuts some vegetables as he complains about Percival running off first thing in the morning. He pauses in shock when he hears Ironside commenting on how he's using the sword the king gave him as a kitchen knife. These words are followed by an attack that is blocked, but it sends the old man crashing into the house. The intruder confesses that he's been looking for Vergis because 16 years ago he betrayed their master and fled. He never expected to find him living his best life on the frontier. Vergis states that it was they who were the betrayers, which is why he cut ties with them. He quickly recovers and attacks Ironside, leading to a high-level exchange. The intruder gets the upper hand and punctures a cross-shaped wound into Vergis' stomach with his magic. Percival arrives at that moment and tells him to stop. Ironside shoots the face of the cliff and tells the boy that there is an order to all things, so he should wait his turn. Percival plucks one of the falling stones. He then jumps off the cliff and throws it at the knight, demanding he get away from his grandpa. He destroys the first projectile, but the boy lands and swiftly picks up a bigger one and throws it. Ironside remarks on Percival's lack of discipline as he's about to finish him, but Vergis intercepts. He tells his grandson to run, but the boy refuses to leave. Ironside is fine with that because he has no intention to let either one of them escape. He casts his spell, which cuts Vergis all over his body. The natural ketchup even slaps Percival in the face. The old man falls to the floor, and as the boy stands there in shock, Ironside tells him to dispraise his grandpa for this situation. He hits the boy with a powerful cross attack that even penetrates the cliff behind. Percival stumbles back, but still stands his ground and throws a punch, but it is weak due to the damage he's just taken. Ironside savagely kicks him. Vergis wants to know why he would target him after so many years. The knight reveals that a few days ago they were given an ominous prophecy that a group called the Four Knights of the Apocalypse would drive their leader, King Arthur, to his ruin. They don't know anything about them currently, so they decided to stamp out anyone who has the potential to be among their ranks. No matter how far Vergis has fallen, there could have been a chance that he was a member. He's confused as to why the knight took down Percival as well. The grandfather wonders if he has no compassion. As he leaves, Ironside reveals that all his actions are to serve a greater cause. Vergis apologizes to his grandson as he tries to sit up, but he's shocked to see the kid standing. The boy cries and also apologizes for not being able to do anything to protect him. Vergis corrects him and informs that he was the one who was supposed to protect him in this instance. He hugs his grandson and tells him that he needs to find someone who will be precious to him and whom he can trust. This is the person he's to protect as they walk through life together. Percival feels like this is God's punishment because he lied. He confesses that he wanted to go on an adventure. Vergis reveals that he lied too and lies down. He can't believe that the kid is walking around with that wound. He assures him that it's nothing since he has been training every day. Vergis drops the bombshell that the knight in the red armor is his father. He apologizes for telling that lie, but he has his reasons. Percival doesn't believe this because he can't imagine why his father would do such a terrible thing. The old man doesn't have enough time to explain, so he advises him to seek out Ironside and ask him. He tells Percival that he must prepare for a journey, but the boy doesn't want to set off alone. With the last of his strength, he pats his grandson's head, assuring him that he will always be with him and that Percival is his hope. This hand slumps down as the life leaves his body. In the aftermath, he heals up, buries his grandpa, and lives for some time alone. As he cleans up the place, he finds a wooden box that has a new set of clothes. There is a note that reads that it was for the day he decides to leave. He cries while holding it. Some time passes and Percival finally decides to set off. He wears his grandpa's cape and helmet after he pays his respects to him. His cool departure moment is ruined when he trips, but he begins the long descent down, almost having a few close falls along the way. He celebrates when he finally sees the land below but gets too excited and falls off. He lands on a rock bird, but it throws him off. Percival promises to eat them all for this transgression. A tree breaks his fall as he touches land for the first time. His attention is drawn towards a creature with a necklace. That brings the episode to an end. Previously, Percival resided at the mountain called God's Finger with Verghese, his grandpa. They had a secluded life living off the land while also training. His grandpa told him stories of the world which plants the yearning seeds of adventure in Percival. Their happy life is shattered when the Holy Knight Ironside tracks down Verghese and eliminates him in fear that he might be part of the 4 knights of the apocalypse who are prophesied to ruin King Arthur. Percival is also mortally wounded. His grandpa reveals that Ironside is his father, and he should seek him out if he wants to know his motives for his attack. After burying his grandpa, he sets off to find his father and get revenge. Things continue as Percival stares at the creature, puzzled that he has never seen an animal like that on God's Finger. He fixes his helmet and introduces himself while also revealing how it took him 2 days to climb down. He asks the fox if it knows any places around where people like him live. Percival has only heard of villages and towns from the stories Grandpa Verghese told him. The creature only tilts its head in confusion. The kid assumes that it doesn't understand him and just follows it as it slowly walks away. He tries to make small talk about how their meeting could be some kind of destiny and asks if they want to become friends. It responds by running off in the bushes as Percival pleads for it to wait. He gets a little upset and feels lonely because he doesn't know anyone. He follows it through the bushes and emerges from the other side where he spots a trio standing in the clearing with their horse and carriage. Donnie casually sits there as Cats and Elva practice their routine. He introduces the group as the Cat Street Troop. As the leader, he begins with his trick by throwing up some shreds of parchment and setting them ablaze with his magic. It gives the effects like comets falling from the sky. Elva goes next and makes her pet monkey disappear through the hoop. Cats turns to their featured performer, expecting him to go next, but Donnie hasn't moved an inch. The leader berates him for not taking practice seriously. He doesn't see the point of doing it if no one's watching. Elva explains that that is the whole point of practice. Percival interrupts their bickering with his claps, amazed by what he just witnessed. The troop is confused by his presence as he jumps around wanting to see more. Elva wonders if he's a kid from the area. Cats finds that hard to believe since they are in the middle of nowhere. Donnie steps up, informing Percival that this isn't a free show and orders him to pay. Elva warns him not to threaten him just because he stumbled on them practicing. The featured performer states that they will use the charge to buy food. Percival looks at him clueless since he doesn't know the concept of paying for things due to his isolation. Donnie gets irritated when he asks what paying is, so he just tells the kid to hand over his bag. The guy is shocked when he gives it without protest. With the transaction complete, he informs Percival that he will show him his performance. Donnie draws the blade and gets in a stance. Soon after, Percival begins to float in the air. He spins around amazed, wondering how this is done. By the time he faces them again, the troop has already escaped down the road, and Elva condemns Donnie for his actions. He rationalizes it as teaching the boy a lesson on how the world works. He assures his colleagues that the effects of his magic will wear off soon. Elva doesn't feel like it's a good idea to leave the kid like that. Cats doesn't think that he has any companions. As they try convincing Donnie to turn back, Percival drops down and jets past them in his attempt to catch up. The troop stops in their tracks, shocked by the feat he just performed, and asks what in the name of Usain Bolt just happened. Percival jogs back to their location, prompting Donnie to apologize as he hands over his bag. The boy informs the troop that he's looking for someone and want their advice on how he's to go about it. They are all surprised that he's not angry at the stunt Donnie tried to pull. Cats wants to know the name of the person in question. He calls Ironside's name. The leader wants to know if this person is an acquaintance of the boy. This triggers a flashback of the devastating attack. Percival reveals that Ironside is his father who ended his grandpa. The performers gasp after hearing this. Cats comments on how it doesn't sound like a pleasant story and concludes that it is a revenge quest. Percival is unsure what to make of it all, which is why he wants to meet and ask about his motives directly. But for now, He wants to beat him for his transgression. The troop informs him that they have not heard of such a person before. The leader suggests he head to the village to gather some more information. Percival gets excited as he thinks about the people and houses he's going to see for the first time. Katz offers him a lift to the village since they are already going there. Donnie isn't willing to bring him along for free and asks if he has a party trick. Percival wants to impress by displaying his archery skill. He tries to shoot the apple in front, but his skills are so bad he gives Donnie a close shave who stands behind him. The guy shouts at the kid for almost ending him. This amuses Katz, who decides to send him there for free. He explains that their troupe makes a living traveling through Britannia's towns and villages to put on shows. Percival tells them that their performance was amazing as it looked like magic. Donnie is surprised that he finds their child's tricks to be amazing. He thinks it would be better if they didn't have to rely on these party tricks to make money. Katz reveals that they had their dream of joining the Holy Knight crushed because they were not strong enough. Percival reveals that his father and grandpa were Holy Knights, but he doesn't know which country they came from as he is unaware of what one is. Donnie doesn't want to hear about the Holy Knight as his wounds are still fresh. Their conversation is interrupted when some villagers frantically meet them along the way and alert them that the settlement is being attacked by a wolf, so they need their horse in order to call the Holy Knights. Donnie assures them that a wolf isn't worth calling those big shots and offers to drive the animal away since they too are competent. Before the group can agree, he snaps the horse into high gear. He explains that if they take off the threat, they will get free food and lodging for their trouble. They arrive to meet a monster wolf chopping down a residence's roof trying to gain access. Donnie realizes that he's in over his head and turns right around to go tell the Holy Knights about the situation. Elva worries about the people inside that house. He informs her that there is nothing they can do for them. Percival jumps out of the speeding carriage and shares that his grandpa always told him to defeat the evil and help the weak. He doesn't want to go through that ordeal of witnessing the death of someone again, and he refuses to let anyone experience it either. He commands the wolf to stop by threatening to have it for lunch by stewing it in a pot. He shoots a few arrows, but they all miss and return to hit his helmet, which pins him down. The wolf counters with a paw attack, and Donnie takes the attack to the back while trying to save Percival. The guy came back because the speech got him fired up. The wolf attacks again, but Percival blocks it with one hand to everyone's shock. He follows it up with a Will Smith-level slap that ends the creature. Unlike Chris, the villagers appreciate the slap and are stunned that he managed to beat the monster. The wolf is a knight's familiar as the seal disappears. The fox watches the commotion from a nearby hill. Percival smiles as the residents of the house show their relief that they are safe. All the while Pelagard watches the events through a magic crystal. He is impressed that Percival defeated his familiar and decides to visit him. Back at the village, the residents wonder if this is a bad omen since they have never seen a wolf that big before. Someone points out that there have been rumors of nightmarish monsters appearing in other villages. Katz tends to Donnie's back wound while Elva takes Percival to the hilltop lake to bathe. She comments on his scars as she tries to sympathize with him and notices that it hasn't been long since the wound closed. Even though he's a kid, she remarks on how he acts mature for his age. He recalls his grandpa saying the same thing. She begins to clean him as the villagers are throwing him a welcoming party because he saved them. Percival sees Donnie as a good guy as he is willing to sacrifice himself for someone he just met. Elva reveals that he was probably influenced by Percival's actions and believes that he never gave up on becoming a holy knight. These are warriors that possess powerful magic. The troop didn't have strong enough magic to become holy knights. Elva thinks that the kid might have what it takes to become a holy knight, based on his willingness to take on the monster for a stranger regardless of danger. After their discussion, they get dressed and head to the party where they make a toast in honor of Percival. He can't believe how delicious the juice is. Donnie would have preferred some stronger. Percival is surprised that Donnie is of age. Elva states that he's 16 just like her. Percival reveals that they are all the same age. Elva spits out the juice, shocked and embarrassed that she bathed with him thinking he was a kid. The child and his grandpa from the house he saved come over to thank him officially. Percival asks the villagers about Ironside, but none of them have heard of him. He gets frustrated that he's making no progress, so Elva tries to calm him down when suddenly Pelagard appears floating on a shield stating that he knows Ironside. Everyone is startled by his presence. The knight is shocked that the kid who defeated his familiar is Ironside's son. According to reports, they should have been dealt with. He just takes it as Ironside caring for his son, but he hopes that Verghese is gone. Percival starts to get agitated when he hears his grandpa's name. Katz intervenes, telling Pelagard to apologize to the boy. The leader gets up and personal with Pelagard. but he receives a slap for getting in the way. The Black Knight reveals that he's a colleague of Percival's grandfather and father, and the boy demands to know where Ironside is. Pelagard likes that he can stand before him without getting scared. Percival has enough of it and attacks. The Black Knight is surprised that he has the power to push his heavy armor back a little. He continues with a flurry of punches, but it doesn't do much damage. Pelagard counters looking to end the fight, but he dodges. The Black Knight can see that Percival has potential and decides to train him. The boy blocks another attack and rejects the offer. He goes for another barrage of punches, but Pelagard stops him with ease by grabbing his head. The knight is impressed with his fortitude despite facing a mountain. He advises Percival to use magic if he's not going to use a weapon, and the boy confesses that he doesn't have magic. The Black Knight is stunned to hear that Ironside's son doesn't have the magic and tries to get him to admit defeat by beating him. Donnie tries to help, but Elva stops him as it is obvious that he doesn't stand a chance. The little boy he saved gives words of encouragement to Percival. This triggers his magic powers to awaken as Pelagard is blown back from the burst of energy. He asks Percival to explain the power overflowing from him. That brings the episode to an end.